Greetings and salutations, nerds. You're listening to Praying for Superpowers,
A podcast about the deeper meanings, intricacies, and messages hidden within nerd culture. I'm your host, Peter Jordan.
and I'm Trever Sharon. Today we're going to be talking about board games, particularly the fall of Monopoly and the rise of story games.
Growing up, we played Monopoly till
Yes.
I was about, 10,
And sick of it.
and sick of it the whole time. It does not breed friends. It is the game to end friendships.
Yep.
I think the internet colloquially calls it that.
Yes.
And it is. The whole point of the game is to laugh maniacally when they land on your space and you ruin their life. Like,
I remember when my grandfather used to play with us, the bank would end up owing him.
oh, that's awesome.
And so it was never like, and that I think ruined a lot of the fun because you always knew like you can't beat Papa. Like it's just not gonna happen. The bank's gonna owe him, and all of the money in the entire game is gonna end up in his pockets.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the point of the
That
game.
is that is the point of the game. I think our age group, especially, and higher and lower as well, have kind of come to this point where the board game anti-Monopoly, where the goal of the game is to get rid of everything you own,
Yeah.
is more attractive.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, like I think I was 9 or 10, maybe 11, my brother got the Settlers of Catan for his birthday or Christmas, and we played it religiously. And the first game is classic. I love it. It's not the best game for strategy because there's so much lays on probability.
Totally.
The first expansion, Cities and Knights, is like it turns it into a Monopoly type game where there's so many opportunities to screw over your family members and friends.
And I've referred to Catan as the Monopoly of good games.
Oh, that hurts me.
I'm gonna make some enemies here. I'm not the biggest fan of Catan. I don't know what it is.
I mean, but I get it. Like I definitely get it. There's a lot of things that you can do wrong to screw up and kill yourself. And if you're playing in a 4-player game, one person is always the short end of the stick. And when we played growing up, that was usually you.
It was always
4
me.
of us would play. You'd have 3 points while the rest of us had 9.
Hey, Trevor, try this.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
But you mentioned story games, and that's kind of where we've arrived. Games like Dead of Winter, Lord of the Rings Living Card Game. You can see all the ones we have here. For those of you listening, we have games like Ascension, Small World, Blood Rage, King of Tokyo, Smash Up, Munchkin. Those games, well, not all of them are the most literary driven board games.
Right.
Are story based.
Totally.
It's not about winning, even though that's the point. It's about the game. And I think that's the beauty of board games.
Right.
As where we've arrived is people would prefer to have a good time and try to win.
Yeah.
Most people. I preferably, I don't care about winning. I would rather lose so that you have a good time and you'll play with me again because I get joy out of the
Right.
playing part.
Well, and the loser really controls the atmosphere of the table too.
Yes.
In a really interesting way with board games.
Ooh. I haven't thought about that, but definitely.
Yeah.
If you're a sore loser, everyone at the table is upset.
Totally.
But if you're losing and you're in a good mood and you're just like, whatever, I've got 50 sheep here.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it.
I can't really take credit for that. It's really Will Wheaton in his show Tabletop that taught me that because he's just such a good loser and loses every time, almost every time.
And he's the host, right?
He's the host.
Which is well done, Will, to lose on purpose.
Yeah, that's probably what he does.
Probably.
He's probably losing on
Wink,
purpose.
Wesley Crusher.
I really
And it's gone.
Yep.
That's okay.
We'll have to cut back in.
Monopoly has been around for 83 years and has sold 250 million copies.
Gosh.
So that's with 1,300 versions, 1,300 versions of the game, and that's themed. Like There's the Nintendo theme, the 90s theme, the Friends themed, Legend of Zelda,
Star Trek themed.
The Star Trek
one.
Yep, Star Trek themed, Adventure Time. One comes out every 10 years to celebrate its anniversary. Yeah. And so with those 1,300 versions, you know, that's a lot of sales broken up over the years.
Yeah.
But
sorry, there's a fly just roaming around
landing on
head.
my lips. I guess it's that cherry lip balm.
Well, I think there's this weird dynamic that we're in right now that's really fascinating to me from a psychological perspective. Board game sales have gone up a lot in the past 5 years, even in the past 2 years. They've increased so much, and yet I think there are probably less board games being played the way they were back in the Parker Brothers days. And I think it's really because we don't do the family game night anymore. That was really common. It's been replaced by a slew of things.
Yeah.
And so you don't have the family game night anymore. And so there's this really interesting juxtaposition between more board games are being sold, more people are getting into them, and yet families aren't playing them as much.
It's a friend thing to do.
Totally.
And I may be off base here. Part of me wonders if that's like the rivalry in families is something that is so difficult to overcome. My family members can attest. We get pretty bitter pretty fast during a game of Catan Cities and Nights. It gets rough out there, you know, and we need to take a break afterwards. And, you know, we've gotten better since we've all graduated high school, you know, and gotten out of college. We're definitely more mature in our playing, but still, but with friends, I never get that way.
Right.
You know,
I rarely get that way.
Rarely. It has to be a very close friend.
Yeah.
And they have to be purposefully mean in the game. Like when a friend's like, quote, "It's not enough for me to win, others should lose." If that's how you come into board game night, I will put bad, gross stuff in your food.
Yep. Well, that's kind of how my wife plays most of the time. It's not enough that she's winning. I have to lose too. Oh. And if she's not winning, me losing is just as good as her winning.
There you go.
Yep.
That's going back to the loser controls the board.
Oh, yeah.
If you're losing in a game that has trading and you give away stuff to upset the balance...
Oh, man.
We caution against losing friends in that way.
Yeah. Well, and I remember, so Chris Jordahl and I had this ending to Munchkin. We called it the classic end.
Oh, gosh.
So you remember.
And now you do it with your wife.
Now I do it with my wife. Where the way you level up is you defeat a monster, and then you can go up, and you can ask for help. And there's only one race that you can choose, or you can get throughout the game, called the Elf, where you can get a level for helping somebody in their fight. And so what we would do is we would get to 9th level, 10th level is win. We'd fight a monster where the person fighting isn't the elf, but then they ask the elf for help, and then both people win, getting to 10th level. And it created a lot of enemies, but we were closer for it.
But in the rules, the elf cannot win unless it's their turn. The elf can't get to level 10 and win. So
I haven't been called on that rule, and that's part of the rules. So
it's
cheating's allowed in the Munchkin.
All of you board game lovers out there, please sit down with the rule book and read it. There's no rule in the Munchkin rule book that says if you cheat and don't get caught, it's okay. I don't know where that started or why that became a thing with everyone I know, but if you cheat and don't get caught in Munchkin, it's fine because DM says it's okay because it's cool. Like that's not how it works. I meticulously read. I lost friends over Munchkin after I stopped playing Monopoly because of stuff like that.
I just like how like vehemently you're against this.
See,
classic end.
What I love about board games is that aspect.
Yeah.
Is the ability to bring out this competition and this strategy and this kind of fierce defensiveness almost. But the next time you play or the next game or the next hour after you've finished picking up, things are back to normal.
Yeah.
You know, there's not like rivalries. I mean, maybe some people have those out there. I've never seen one where someone has a board game rivalry, like, oh, I have to beat this person. Even if we both lose, I have to do better than them.
I mean, my wife and I have that.
Right. You said that.
I cannot beat her at Boss Monster. No matter how hard I try, I cannot beat her there. I don't know what it is. It's awful. It sucks.
I'm sorry. My wife does not enjoy board games. She's wonderful for so many reasons. We talk about how that's difficult for me.
Yeah.
And on my birthday every year, she plays board games with me as a gift. And other times throughout the year,
Sure.
especially with family and friends over. But she beats me every time. And she beats we have a mutual friend named Peter, and he's like this strategy-minded, like genius level intellect type guy. And she beats him at games that he loves because he doesn't pay attention to her. He's paying attention to all the other players, and then she comes in with the win, and he like sits there recounting the points a couple times. And he's like, I can't believe I lost. And that's how it is being married to her. I don't know what happened.
There's an opposite side to the strategy too, as there's a game called Gloom, and it's a storytelling game where essentially you're trying to tell the worst story you possibly can and kill off your entire family. So
that sounds so dark. It is a dark game.
And you do it all through alliterations. And so it's like maimed by mimes or drowned by ducks or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's rules involved, but I have played with the rules once. Every single time we play, it's with my wife's family or my wife or just a group of people that really aren't as heavy into gaming as I am, and find it more fun to be able to come up with intricate stories and make it really funny on how this person was marvelously wed or whatever, and just don't care about the rules. So I mean, I couldn't even tell you how to play with the rules. I just know that there are certain rules we keep, but on the card text, never use it. And there's such a camaraderie that comes from that, and the beauty of storytelling corporately through some of those games, and through games like Blood Rage, where you have these certain situations that happen, and then you remember them, and you talk about them later on. And that's, we'll get into why I love D&D for the storytelling reasons later, but I find it in board games as well.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me to see this shift that focuses on the storytelling. If you go back pre-1990, there's some. Pre-1980, there's very few.
Yeah.
D&D is pretty old.
1974
is when it was printed, but it was invented in 1965.
Well, and it was based off of wargaming. We'll get into this next episode.
But what I love is that in these past 3 decades, it's really become about the story.
Yeah.
If you build a great game with these great fundamentals, and it's put together well, and the rules are well written, and there's no story behind it, it doesn't sell.
It doesn't stick either.
Yeah, it has to be really cheap.
Yeah.
For people to like it. Like Block Us is a fun game.
Yeah.
That has no story. It's a tile laying game. It's a lot of fun, and it's not that expensive, and I like that. But the game Castles of Mad King Ludwig is about the last king of Bavaria who went insane and had these like 7 really expensive random castles built using all of his country's defensive contract money, depleting their resources to build these castles. And you lay tiles and you build castles that make no sense, with stairs going down that end in stairs going up that go to a dungeon and then a bathroom. And the storyline is you're an insane builder for the king who's insane. And it's just crazy.
It's amazing.
But I wouldn't think I'd enjoy that if it didn't have that history story behind it.
It would make no sense.
Right.
The story is what brings it together. I really also like Kickstarter and how it's affected games, because games are the most funded project type in Kickstarter. And granted, that includes video gaming, app gaming, and a variety of other RPG games. But board games are
a big part
of that. And gaming alone on Kickstarter has raised like $816 million since it started in 2009.
Yeah.
And $400 million of that was raised in the past 2 years.
Which is awesome.
Totally awesome. And I mean, I've done a few. I own Loop Inc., which is a Kickstarter, and I also recently helped fund the Call to Adventure game because Brandon Sanderson's involved with it,
right?
And doing an expansion. But I think that adds to the experience as well. Patrick Rothfuss has an expansion this year, and then next year is Brandon Sanderson doing an expansion.
I gotta get on Kickstarter now.
Oh, bro. Well, it's ended. Sorry. Oh. They'll sell it normally
for
afterwards.
Twice as much money.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man.
Yeah, but this is a whole experience
yes.
of the joy that I get knowing that not only did I help make this project happen the way it's happening with all of the expansions that they're going to be able to do, but also that when it comes out, I've been investing into it. I'm a part of the story now, and it's such a story-driven game. You're creating a character with these enemies and these different plot twists, and you're rolling runes instead of dice, and just very, very interesting.
I love it.
And I think the experience of gaming, because I can play video games all day, but I would rather play board games with other people.
Yeah, and we've come to this in a previous episode. Modern day video games don't have split screen multiplayer.
Oh my god, yes.
Yes. And, you know, it's like there's like some sports games where you can play like FIFA or Madden on the same screen. But Star Wars Battlefront 2, when they remade it, they got rid of split screen multiplayer.
Which in my mind was a terrible decision.
Right, it was. And EA will continue to make terrible decisions until they go bankrupt. Yeah. We just can't believe it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And that's what I love about board games is you get it's family time, it's group time. You're sitting around a table.
Yeah.
You're discussing life or the game or how life relates to the game.
Yeah.
Together. I've sold different games I've had that I've loved, like Dominion. It's a deck building style game. It's lots of replayability. I really enjoy it, but it has no interaction necessary in a lot of its expansions. You can play your hand and then sit there and not talk to anyone until your next turn.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't like it. And
Ascension is that way for me too. It's another deck builder, and I can't play it because somebody inevitably takes the card that you want next, so you have to like purposely ignore,
not look at
everyone
the board
to keep your heart safe from just wanting to go postal,
just being ripped apart.
Yeah.
And that's why I love games like Dead of Winter.
Yeah.
Dead of Winter is a co-op. It's a co-op game. You are a group of survivors. Each player starts out with 2 survivors. And you build your group of survivors as the game goes on, and you look for weapons and food and
fight zombies,
medicine, and the goal is to survive. And everyone has their own goal, like underneath it. Like the general goal is to survive, but I have my own personal goal. And if you survive and you get your personal goal, you win. But more than the others who also survived. And then the Lord of the Rings living card game.
Yeah, that one.
Have
you beaten that one yet?
I have.
Okay.
I've beaten I have the core set. It is the Battletoads of board games. For those of you that don't know, Battletoads, one of them, is the hardest video game ever invented. I had lengthy discussions in college about this. You can comment on our website about it or on YouTube, but
I would say it's impossible if I hadn't seen people do it.
Right.
But I still kind of feel like it's impossible.
Yeah, I could never beat it.
And especially as older people, because if you look into video gaming, you are better at video games when you're younger, because your reaction time is faster, and you slow down as you age. So we will only get worse at Battletoads.
Another reason I love board games. And take your time. And those co-op games, they build such a camaraderie because you have to discuss.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, you should do this. Someone's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And wait, don't do that. Wait.
Leroy Jenkins.
And it's like, and it's just, you have to talk about it. You can't just play what you think is best.
Yeah.
I've brought up this quote before, and I will probably the rest of this podcast. What's best for you is what's best for you and the group.
Yep.
If you are selfish in a lot of modern day board games, you either lose your friends or you lose the game.
Yep, it is one of the two.
Yep.
Definitely.
And that's what I love, is in Monopoly, it's all about you.
Yeah.
Which, ironically, Monopoly was made before that happened in real life.
The law,
right? The
anti-monopoly. I don't remember 16th Amendment. I don't.
No, not that. The movie, the movie A Beautiful Mind, is based off of a real person, and his discovery of that law of economics, what's best for you is best for you in the group, came out post Monopoly being built. So,
and also to ruin Monopoly even further for everybody, if you play again, the way you win is you never upgrade to a hotel. You only buy out all of the houses because there are a limited amount of houses.
So if you own them all, no one else can ever get to a hotel.
And you win.
Yeah. Second thing, you should watch the How It's Played video on YouTube or read the rulebook in depth because you're probably playing it wrong.
Yeah. But who are we kidding? Nobody's playing Monopoly.
I mean, it is still the #1 best-selling board game in the world.
But I'd push back against that because I own 2 copies, I realized today. And I have not opened either one of them.
I only own a copy of Monopoly because I feel like I have to.
Yes.
It's well, I really love the Lord of the Rings movies, and I have the extended version, and I had to buy the extended Hobbit version.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't really want it.
Sure. It's the set.
Right. It's the set. It's in boxes. It matches. Yeah. I want it.
I owned the original Monopoly, and then I saw a Star Trek one, and I was like, well, gotta get that.
Because it's Star Trek themed. It's that's just how it feels. It might be the best selling. It's not the most played.
I couldn't even tell you if there are pieces in the box. Honestly, I don't know.
And the same, it's the same with games like Pictionary.
Yeah.
And
Gestures is really good. I got one of the original first editions of Gestures. Some of those games have a lot of merit to them.
They do. One of those that doesn't is Trivial Pursuit, which is surprisingly, it is the 8th best-selling game of all time.
And so outdated.
And it's terrible. It's I've never enjoyed it.
Because I really like random facts. Love just knowing random things. Who gives a crap about a lot of the facts on Trivial Pursuit?
Reading through those, I would actually have to study a book to specifically win this game because it's so random.
Yeah, and it's not even useful information.
Those Parker Brother games, I can't handle. So those of you who work for Parker Brothers out there that have heard this or seen this, please don't send us a cease and desist letter
or hate mail.
Yeah,
or spoilers. Remember, hate mail, not spoilers.
But I mean, I think we're out of time, but that's really where I've come to with board games is I can't enjoy the classics because I want the camaraderie and the friendship and the story more than I want the win.
And the incredible artwork too.
Yes.
I think that is not talked about as often.
Piece of it. There are so many random guest artist Munchkin expansions where it's the same game. They just draw everything different and they're cool.
They're amazing.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Next week we'll be talking about D&D, which I'm really excited for. I'll have a whole bunch of my paraphernalia on the set. So if you're listening to the podcast, check out the YouTube page. If you're watching, continue watching next week. We post every Monday. Check out our website, prayingforsuperpowers.com. Each of us have corners, and we try to post stuff on there to keep things interesting.
And keep an eye out for our Instagrams, Facebooks, and Twitters as well.
See you next week.